Well, and I guess we'll get this started. So, welcome to this session that was called, or is called, I guess, Expert Focus Thinkers Unleashed or something like that. And so let me just tell you a little bit about how this all came about, and then we'll talk about, well, you'll hear from this group is what actually happened. A number of us, in fact, a number of the people that are sitting up here, last Fusion a year ago, were talking about some of the challenges that we are having of getting content that was more than beginner. Trying to do things that were going to bring things to the next level. And in addition, I expressed some frustration over the fact that in the hallways and quite frankly in the bars and the evenings, there were a lot of conversations that others just didn't partake in, just didn't have the opportunity to hear because they were happening outside of the formal structure of what was going on in the conference. And so a couple things came out of that. The expert focus track as a whole came out of that. But the other thing that came out of it was this idea that we originally conceived as kind of a think tank, but it was really just this idea of bringing together some of these folks, and we were just unfortunately limited to the number of people we could invite, but just simply put them in a room and give them the opportunity to have those conversations in that environment as part of the formal structure and to see what happened. Now, quite frankly, our intent was that as part of that, we were going to get a bunch of good content. We're going to do some interviews, we're going to get some videos, we're going to maybe get some people to write some stuff and kind of capture some of these ideas. And people told me that I must have been a little nuts when that happened because you put some of these folks in the room and expect that maybe the unexpected happens. And I think that is exactly what in fact did happen. So it didn't quite go that way, and it went a little bit different. And so this group is going to tell you exactly what did happen. But before we do that, we're going to go around the room, and I want to make one last comment, because I know there's been a lot of kind of talk out there, I've been following this on Twitter about all this. Everybody here was made explicitly aware that they were here representing themselves. In fact, as we go through the intros, you will probably know who a lot of these folks are, but we're not going to name companies. This is about us as individuals, and not about the companies that we may work for. So just kind of bear that in mind. I'm going to have everyone just introduce themselves, and then you'll hear what the group did with these 2 days. So we'll start with Paul.
Hello, my name is Paul Wilkinson, and all of our hashtags are up there on the wall if you actually want to tweet to us or follow us.
Carlos Casanova. As Paul said, we got all the stuff here. Some are actually en route, so Randy will be online. There's a few others that we're partaking to. We're capturing all the names as we go.
Matt Barron, ENCP, passionate about positive change.
Robert Stroud, thanks for being here.
Stephen Mann.
Shane Carlson.
Ray Atkinson.
Mark Kawasaki.
Chris Tansey.
Mark Smalley from the Netherlands.
Mauricio Corona from Mexico City.
Jane Kroll.
Randy Steinberg, troublemaker.
No Twitter.
Patrick Bulger from London, here only because of the accents.
Matt Hooper from Boston. Go Sox.
Cardinals!
Oh, great, now that's a real controversy. Okay, so with that, I'm going to turn the reins of this meeting over to Pat here to kind of lead us through what happened.
It should have been David Cannon delivering this session, so standing in David Cannon's shoes is a pretty tall order for me. So just to set the scene on this, we suspect that you guys demand a little bit more in terms of the results you're getting from service management and ITIL in particular. What do you think? How long have we been, in inverted commas, adopting ITIL? Yeah. So to my mind, it's probably since the early 2000s. It's been around for a lot longer than that, but really it didn't have the groundswell and take-up. But the next question, overall, how much have we invested in people, process, products, and partners? So I was at an event in Helsinki about 2 weeks ago. Jan van Bon, who's one of your countrymen, Paul, from the Netherlands, he estimated that around 1 billion euros had been spent in Europe alone. In Europe alone. That's a scary thought. So the next question, in terms of value, has it been a good investment in IT value? Actually, most of the people we ask say, yes, it's been good for us. But we move on to the next question. Can we articulate the business value? That's where a lot of us begin to struggle. So people making improvements and saying, yeah, we've improved, but our customers haven't noticed. So the final question then, has it helped us better understand the needs of our customers? Do you think it's revolutionized the services you're providing? Are you as an IT organization far, far better now after adoption? Have you matured to the level that you wanted?
And I'll add to that, you know, how many people, CEOs of the companies or line employees of the companies have come to you in IT and said, thank you for implementing IT service management. You have made my life better every day as a result of it.
Go ahead, Dave.
Looking at the last one that's there, has it helped us better understand the needs of our customers? Can you articulate who the customers really are?
Let me ask one question along those lines. How many people in the room have, you know, been doing ITIL for more than 3 years? How many people have moved beyond incident, problem, change management, and maybe a little bit of configuration management? Yeah. So, and I think, you know, the people in the room who have been here, you keep coming to these conferences, you guys have gone through the life cycle, and again, the question comes back to is, articulate the value. You know, articulate the value not from you, but from what your customers are saying and your penultimate customers in the business. You know, where is that going? And I think all of us have struggled throughout this journey from time to time, not only to articulate that value, to understand it, to tell that to other people, and have people tell you, because there's only one person who's capable of measuring value of the services that you provide, and that's your customer. You know, you can't project value onto your customers. You have to ask them the question. And if they don't know what you've done and how it's improved their lives, and this is some of the conversation we had in the room, and part of where we got to with this presentation, it really came down to, you know, we've all been doing this. I think, you know, the average tenure in the room was somewhere between, you know, 10 and 20 years in this industry. And we all talked about this, the struggles that we've seen as practitioners, you know, as vendors, as consultants, you know, as educators, you know, seeing the same problems over and over again as an industry. And yes, we have edge cases in the industry of people who've gotten through that entire life cycle and have made tremendous value, but then they have a leadership change and a CIO direction change.
They outsource service management.
Exactly. And you literally hit the reset button and you start over. And I don't know of many other industries where, you know, the ecosystem is so fragile that a single leadership change can wipe out progress because they don't see the demonstrable value. And that's part of the challenge that I think we took on as this is, how can we as an industry remake ourselves in such a way that we can bring that value to the forefront, let that cream rise to the top so it's visible and is never questioned on face value when a new leader walks into that organization, or a new CIO, or a new CEO, anyone. You know, how many people have had that? How many people have had to hit the reset button on their initiatives because of leadership change? Yeah, the average tenure of a CIO is between 2 and 3 years. It's getting a little better lately, but, you know, depending on the industry that you're in, we're going to deal with this day in and day out. And so these are some of the challenges that we face, among many others, when we talk about this.
So the point being, there was a lot of hands went up in the room saying that you've done a little bit more, but that's not the norm. That is not the norm. For the vast majority of organizations out there, they're doing incident, problem change, a little bit of service level management, and that's it. So something's broken and it needs to be fixed. And that's why we decided a call to action was required, and I'll hand you over to Shane to explain what that call to action is.
If you have tomatoes, please keep them in your pocket until the end of the performance. Okay, so this was not an easy path, and I'm going to read this to you, and I'm going to let it sink in, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about and ask some people in the room to talk about the process that we went through to get here. We as individuals within the service management community do declare that our industry has become stagnated by a systemic and fundamentally broken set of attitudes and behaviors, as evidenced below. Operating models that are broken, failure to recognize and take action on shifting business opportunities, an industry that is built around old paradigms and is failing to recognize the new ones, failure to champion individuals and equip them with proper competencies. The service management community must change. A fundamental transformation is needed. In order to bring about a necessary transformation, we are issuing this call to action. We as service management professionals should refocus our attention on a set of core values that help enable individuals, leaders, businesses, and communities. increase the access to open, timely, and relevant knowledge, improve the agility, creativity, adaptability of our organizations, fulfill our essential duty to provide value to our organizations and our customers. We appeal to members of our networks and communities to join us in this movement. We ask that you adopt the values and support the rights that are essential to move our industry forward. We are practitioners, consultants, vendors, leaders, executives, and educators. We are the business.
Here, here.
We signed it. Yes, it's a little bit of showmanship, but we wanted to say that, you know, we sat in this room and we had some very frank, sometimes heated conversations about what was really wrong. And we had an opportunity, and we recognized it. We could either try and evolve and do, you know, a half step to kind of change and maybe influence the hearts and minds of the people in the community. But I think ultimately we knew we needed to try and take some bold action. And we were either going to, you know, what was the phrase that came up from Ben Franklin? They're all hang together or we hang separately. So we decided that, you know, we were going to issue this call to action, and we hope that other folks in the community would recognize some of the value in challenging some of the precepts that have led us down this path. Some of the dogma that we've been passing off as religion over the last 10 or 15 years that has kind of led us a bit astray. And what we're saying here is all of the things that we've worked on over the last 10 or 15 years aren't bad. It's just some of the attitudes that have been adopted, some of the commercialism that has twisted the intent of some of these things, has led us down a path. Some of the commercialism and has led us down a path that kind of whitewashed the intent of some of the good things. And as we all know, you know, you start with good intentions, and sometimes you take some missteps along the way, you know, in the name of doing things for good without realizing the unintended consequences of the action we're taking. And our hope here is we can all start having honest conversations about what we really need to do to continue to add value, to support each other as individuals, regardless of what companies we work for, regardless of our affiliations, regardless of our global. I mean, we've got how many different countries, right? You know, here. We've already translated this call to action into Spanish. You know, I think we're going to try to get it into Dutch. You know, we're in, and Boston.
For me, I would sign this in a heartbeat if there were a two-word change.
What two words?
We as service management professionals make the commitment to. Should is never gonna happen. Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
So the wording is, we as service management professionals commit to. Can I just make a point while this is going on? We just want to know, although we got together to drive this forward, there's no elitism here. This is very, very open indeed. And some of the things you're going to see and some of the comments we're going to make and the words we're going to use are not at all the final article. We're just setting the scene and allowing you guys to actually contribute so that we can, as an industry, drive it forward.
And one thing that Stephen reminded me of that I thought was important to mention, you nowhere in this call to action will you see the words IT. Because, so I'm going to turn this thing over right now because we've got a couple additional things. And for those of you who would like to support this, at the end of this presentation, we've actually already set up a website where you can go online, add your name to sign this, and pass this around to your networks.
Now, this is just the beginning. This is not us, this is you. This is owned by you. The future belongs to all of us. So we're just kicking this off. We're just a bunch of people that got together and said, hey, this has to happen. But it's not us who's going to make it happen. It's going to be you and us.
By the way, introduce yourself. I'm sure everyone is.
Who are you?
I'm just Glenn O'Donnell, a dude from Pennsylvania.
Somebody's been waving their hand furiously from the back.
Service management is a broad terminology. Instead of service management, information service management maybe, not the T. I don't know, just a suggestion.
We actually, we're well aware of the broader connotation, and just because our focus is on, you know, services that are based around technology doesn't mean that the precepts and the concepts that we're talking about don't apply outside.
Business is in transformation right now. And IT doesn't exist as a department, it's a competency that exists across all the business. And so information exists, every business runs on information, that's a given. How they deliver services, there's science and best practice that applies to anybody. HR service management has the exact same processes that we document. I think it's IT service management. We call it an incident, they call it case, right? So it's the same thing, how they process that, how they resolve it, how they fulfill it, how they deliver it. That art, that science, needs to be something that we have to work as a collective. It can no longer be us and them, right? We have to be collective, and we have to grow this, and we have to mature this. So it's very fundamental that we stay away from putting ourselves in a position that we're focused on IT services, because really, anyone here will tell you individually, we're not. We're focused on business outcomes. We're smart people. We understand that there's revenue and there's impact. But how do we do that systemically, right? So I think that's a key point on why we made that decision.
We seem to think that IT invented service management. Service management has been around in business for decades before IT service management ever came on board. And what we did was twisted the concepts ourselves. So we got to get back to the concept of serving the customer and serving a business need.
There were two additional components to this process. Myself and Deborah and a bunch of people on our team. And I believe in personal rights as being really important to this process. For the business, we're people. We're businesses. When you're doing jobs, you're a business. And you have rights. I have rights. And how do we move from our corporatism back to an individual state? So we've created the Universal Declaration of Information Rights. We broke them down around 5 areas: civic rights, political rights, economic rights, cultural rights, and social rights. And I'm going to do the first 3, and my friend Deborah is going to do the last 3. So for civic rights, you have the right to creatively express yourself via any medium, regardless of affiliation or association. Right to full transparency in workplace performance metrics. The right to wellness and productivities, tools, applications, and services. Political rights. You have the right to create, participate, and lead communities. You have the right to access information regardless of membership, institution, or walled bodies of knowledge. You have the right to seek and express opposing points of view. Economic rights. You have the right to create and share non-proprietary information. You have the right to be fairly compensated for your effort. Volunteerism needs to go away. You have the right to a portable identity.
Cultural rights. The right to observe local customs and traditions. The right to celebrate stateless customs of digital existence. The right to localize digital resources. Social rights. The right to free and open source of knowledge. The right to your temporal, authentic self. And the right to digital self-actualization. And last but not least.
Individually, we have the unalienable right not to participate in digital culture.
And you'll notice too, we put at the bottom some of these rights and then the values that we're going to speak to next, that these are drafts and subject to review from the broader service management community. I mean, we wanted to start somewhere and put these things out for feedback and review. I promise we'll never form a committee. I promise. But really, we want the community to own this. None of us own this. You know, we just actually, in a comment that Chris just made that I want to make out is that anything that comes from this movement is going to be fully licensed under a Creative Commons license and free to use, freely available. Anyone can use it in a presentation with proper attribution, etc. But no one owns this. I mean, this is the community's. This is community property.
So one of the things that we realized as we were going through this, and I think it's been iterated a few different times, is the fact that this is not about us, right? We were fortunate enough to be selected to be the pioneers, perhaps, of the revolution, but the revolution doesn't work unless it's about all of you. And one of the sins of the past, perhaps, with all due respect to the fathers, grandfathers, and mothers of service management, is that it has remained a, no pun intended, good old boys club. Right, so as one of the representative females on this group, one of the things that we really talked about is this needs to be a greater community. It can't be the usual suspects that are always, driving what's happening in this community. It has to be participation from all of you, and one of the words that I've been using a lot this week is crowdsourcing. So what we want to do, in addition to what we started, is hear from you. So what I would like to do is stand by this board, and I would like you to share with us words. Words that, good words, bad words, not too bad words, please.
We use
But
those already.
your words that express your impression, frustration, excitement, value that you feel from service management, because what we would like to do with those words is translate them into our values. We came up with a preliminary draft of values, and Carlos is going to share those with us in just a minute. But we really want to know what words are in your head, that what you feel about just having finished this conference. Again, not necessarily all bad. There's a lot of good. And there's a lot of good that's happened and that will continue to happen. But we need to know what you're thinking. So, who wants to be the first one to start?
David?
Business outcome driven.
Continually
improving.
Untapped potential.
To quote Larry, be nice.
Ready to be nice? Okay.
Go ahead.
Inclusiveness, I think that's the emergence of,
I tried.
yeah, my team is trying to be, instead of looking at the business and IT, how can we be inclusive? IT is a business unit.
You don't align with the business, you are the business.
Correct, that's what I'm saying. And
My word is very similar to that. It's collaborative.
partnership.
Demonstrating business value.
Opportunity.
And embracing change.
Less training centric. I think there's a lot out there that really appears to be more of a training scheme versus a capability and skills building.
You guys think we hit that one before?
I really wish we had the whiteboard notes from the room.
I do.
Because all of you guys, every one of the words, I mean, I'm fist pumping over here mentally every time you guys say something. This is awesome.
Educating and supporting those that most need our help.
I would like to say practical and pragmatic.
People and business outcomes over tools and technology.
Respect and honor contributions.
That exercise we just went through is what we were doing for the first part. What we've come up with was we needed to put something out there to start the discussion, and that's what we did. So we've thrown this out there. I will tell you right now, amongst these, and especially if you know us, we did not agree on all of this. We were supposed to stop at 4 yesterday so we could get this wrapped up. At around 5:15, someone threw a whole arsenal of grenades into the pile. I'm not kidding, okay? Some of us just walked out, we're like, I'm done. I put too much into it, we can't do that now. But the point that I'm coming back to is, we don't all agree on every line item here. We don't all agree on some of the wording that was in the declaration. We don't expect all of you in our whole community to agree on this. What we do agree on is we need to do something, and that's where the concept of revolution came about. But they are not the end, they're just the beginning, a very rough beginning that we were able to pull together in under 8 hours, frankly. We went through 30 different variations of this, trying to get it succinct, but not lose meaning. We basically took the Agile Manifesto as an inspiration for what we wanted to do. At one point, this was called a manifesto. We didn't like that. It got kicked around. We ended up with values essentially because we just didn't have any more time. Okay? Like, I'm not gonna lie to you. But that's what we had to do. Patrick, do you want to add more on the?
Yeah, well, basically, I'll say thanks to Dave Van Harpen for putting the initial suggestion in. We put the words together, it changed several times. But the software industry was actually crippled by things like bureaucracy, process, huge risk to the customer, huge cost, and the deliverable at the end that probably didn't meet the goal of the customer. So the software industry adopted an Agile Manifesto, which is a group met, and they came up with a series of values. And they said, look, we're not going to tell you what to do, but these are the values that we think the industry should be adopting. Now you've had various different Agile methodologies, or methods, I should say, come out, like Scrum, Kanban, DSTM, there's a lot of agility coming, and this industry, more than anything else, needs a shake in terms of its agility.
All of this is important. We're not going to throw out the baby with the bathwater. That's not the intent of this revolution. The intent of the revolution is to enlighten ourselves and to recognize that we need to refocus not only what we're doing, I mean, there's a limited number of people sitting in this room. it's what's happening out there. And so if we refocus where we're investing our energies, we will be awesome.
Can you go back to that other slide, please? If you look at the stuff on the right, all right, that leads to a focus on tools and tech. If you focus on the stuff on the left, that leads to something that Peter Drucker was talking about more than 30 years ago. The purpose for business is to create and retain customers. What does IT do to actively seek and participate in that purpose? That's enabled by the left. It's ignored on the right.
Absolutely. Kind of a happy accident that worked out.
Okay, we'll have a pendulum swing. At some point, you ungovern, and things happen, and it needs to come back. So this will change. This is not going to be static. Yeah, we just need to know we're doing enough of this so that we actually can do this. So as little as this as it is possible to enable as much of that as is possible. This is not bad, and we made that mistake. Put words in here that said bad, good. That's not the case. This is all good. It's just, this is slightly better in terms of what we value.
So I know we all have a couple minutes left. I'm sure lots of people have to get to the airport, so we'll run through this quickly, but I think it's very important. Before we get into this, I just want to say thank you guys for sharing your love with us today, because honestly, all of us thought this morning walking into this, we'd get about 15 minutes into this presentation, people would walk out of the room, those who didn't walk out of the room would be throwing full cups of hot coffee at us. So thank you. But the next steps here, we need to bring in more people, we need to have more conversations around this, and we need to formalize some of the things we showed you today, and probably a lot more things to come. Here's what I ask, and I'm going to go here to this next page. We set up a website very quickly yesterday, literally registered it, set up the website, set up all the mechanisms behind it within about 4 hours. It's far from perfect. We kind of refer to it as the Service Management Congress, and not Congress in the current negative light.
Is there a positive one?
There is, actually. The whole point of a Congress initially was to bring representatives together from diverse places, geographically, intellectually, etc., and have them be representatives of the broader community. I mean, we can't bring, 6,000 people into a committee and get things done. But there are people who are passionate, there are people who represent a diverse background of information. We have people in the service community who have moved into our community. They can bring ideas, they can bring us together. So we jokingly, it started out as a joke, referred to this as the first Congress, but it kind of caught fire, especially as we went through these declarations, these rights, these things together, and the joke about the revolution. We said, okay, maybe this is the first Congress. Maybe we were the inaugural Congress, but we're certainly not going to be the last, and none of us are looking to be lifetime politicians or members of this. We want to pass this on to the next group of people. So right now, the website is smcongress.org. Feel free to go there. We have all of these things that we showed you today, and actually we'll update the should to commit to probably before you get a chance to log onto the website. I'm going to do it right after we end the presentation here. But there's a sign up page. You guys can go, you can add your name, give us your email, give us a message of support, so that one, we can show, the vendors in this community, we can show the Axeloses of the world that the community has a voice. And we want change, and we're open to change, and we want to sit down and we want to have these conversations. And at some point, our hope is that not only as we as individuals within the community are supporting this movement, but that entities, vendors, other companies are out there supporting this too, and signing on to the movement and committing to these values and committing to supporting these rights for themselves and others in the community. So please go to the website, please sign on. I'm sure you'll see a lot of things, chaotic things over the next couple of weeks coming out from folks on this committee in support of this. But our goal is to turn this over to the community and let the community run it. Any questions?
Basically, I'm a consultant, and what I've done for the past several years is seen malaise in every organization that I've gone to. And so I sympathize very heavily with what you said here. The thing that I want to be able to do, though, is be able to have a place to put that information. Have you started a place to do that? Actually start the conversations.
Put information on what?
So actually, if you sign up to the smcongress.org website, When you do the sign up, you put in your name, your email address, and there's also a little comment section, which Shane is probably going to be able to pull up for us in a moment. Little comment section so you can add your comments, and when you click submit, we'll get that. And that actually is going to be turned into a Google Doc, so we capture all of that information.
I had a second part of that question, and that is, once you have that information, what do you do with it?
We promise that we're only going to use it to communicate with you about the community, and we even pinky promise that we'll never sell or otherwise abuse your email. If you want the pinky promise, go get it. Wait, seriously, this whole group, we take this very seriously. We know that your email and access to you is probably one of the most sacred things that you can give us, and we will never violate that for us. You know, a la Chris Dancy 3 years ago.
So as businesses have needed IT more and more, it really has become more commoditized. And I was looking at what we value over the other things, and I was concerned, I'm wondering if I have a right to be concerned, that we might be commoditizing it even more. And then if we are, how do consultants or vendors, how do they differentiate themselves if we go in this direction? Was that discussed?
I think if you focus on the things on the left, you'll never be a commodity.
You have more ability to be unique on that left side than you ever can on the right. The right has been commoditized for 15 years. We talked about this. You know, Chris actually analyzed the entire schedule of Fusion13, and one of the things we realized is that it was lacking in many words that we have expected to see, especially on the left-hand side.
7,000 words, not once the word team, person, or community. Collaboration, knowledge appeared twice.
And just to add to that comment about the items on the left and the right. So the items on the right, to me, that's how we stop existing IT value from being destroyed. It's not how we create new value. To create new value, you have to focus on the left-hand side. And if we're not creating value, we won't be here in 10 years' time.
Yeah.
10 years?
Just one point.
If you're lucky.
One point on that commodity issue. We, in the world of IT, have been focused so myopically on commodity stuff for so long, it's time to let it go. We have to move on.
Part of IT DNA.
And do I have a future as a system admin the way I did 25 years ago? I don't think so. I'm done. Move on.
So all of the things that we presented you today
Are currently on the website. Feel free to go. Feel free to send us a message via the website. We're going to open a discussion forum on the website. And we'll be honest, we're not sure where this is going. We had no preconceived, architected end game. We knew we needed change, and we knew that the change had to come from the people in this community. So
That's a good point that Shane just brought out. We were told explicitly, as Charlie mentioned earlier, you are individuals, you're not representing anyone other than yourself as an individual, or more so a frustrated individual, okay? And secondly, don't bring anything ahead of time, don't work on anything ahead of time. We literally did this, like I said, in under 8 hours, and we were scrambling to get anything on paper. So again, we have no expectation that this was the end by any stretch. It was just something to get things started.
And I want to speak on one thing. I'm really big on inclusion too, but human inclusion. I don't really care much for businesses. I'd like Mauricio to say something in Spanish.
wait, hold on. Mauricio already graciously translated the call to action to Spanish, so we can start sending it around the world.
That's right. This is our call to action, and it's called convocatoria. Nosotros como individuos, dentro de la comunidad de gestión de servicios, declaramos que nuestra industria se ha estancado debido a un conjunto sistemático de comportamientos y actitudes, quebrantando de manera fundamental, conforme se evidencia a continuación. Modelos operativos quebrantados, falta de reconocimiento y tomar acciones sobre las oportunidades cambiantes en las empresas, una industria que está construida alrededor de viejos paradigmas y está fallando al no reconocer las nuevas, fallas al no apoyar a los individuos ni equiparlos con las competencias apropiadas. La comunidad de gestión de servicios debe cambiar. Se necesita una transformación fundamental. Para poder lograr esta transformación de manera apropiada, estamos emitiendo esta convocatoria. Nosotros, como profesionales de gestión de servicios, debemos comprometernos, changing the words, debemos comprometernos. Punto 1. Reenfocar nuestra atención en un conjunto de valores clave que ayuden a los individuos, líderes, empresas y comunidades, incrementar el acceso al conocimiento abierto, oportuno y relevante, mejorar la agilidad, creatividad y adaptabilidad de nuestras empresas, cumplir con nuestro deber esencial de proveer valor a nuestras empresas y clientes. Invitamos a los miembros de nuestras redes y comunidades a unirse a nosotros en este movimiento. Les pedimos que adopten los valores y soporten los derechos que son esenciales para mover nuestra industria hacia adelante. Somos profesionistas, consultores, proveedores, líderes, ejecutivos y profesores. Nosotros somos la empresa, okay? And we must be included.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to say real quick is, you know, the whole first day, we really struggled to figure out where we wanted to go with all of this. And at the time, we didn't envision the call to action in any of this, but we knew we needed to change something. And we asked ourselves two questions. Who are we fighting for, and why should they care? And at the end of the day, we answered, well, we're fighting for ourselves and everyone in this community. And they should care if they want to remain relevant. So, thank you.
I'm leaving the conference and going to have dinner with my 19-year-old niece and 3 girls from her school. And I've been bracing myself, don't talk about what you do for work. Don't talk about what you do for work. Thank you for giving me something much more interesting to take away from this.
Is that a good or a bad thing?